It is a great pleasure to welcome to the show today a woman I've been looking forward to talking to for a long time, and folks here in Florida are going to get a chance to see her in a couple of different programs, one coming up on Friday, August 26th. It's at the Emerald Coast Convention Center. It'll be More Than a Bionic Woman, an evening with Lindsay Wagner. That's a 7 o'clock start. We'll get more details on that in a minute. And on the 28th of August, that's a Sunday afternoon, you can have an acting masterclass with her. And we're talking, of course, about a really well-known actress. You know her all from her work on TV and, of course, film. Lindsay Wagner joined us by telephone. Lindsay, good to talk with you. How are you?
Thank you. Hi, I'm fine.
Good to have a chance to chat with you for a couple of minutes. I'm glad you made your way to Florida. I know you've done some programs around the West Coast and stuff, but good to have you in the state of Florida.
Thank you.
Had you been here before?
Not to that part of Florida, no.
Yeah, it's a little warm here, but good to have you. It's Fort Walton Beach, Florida, up in the northern panhandle part of the state, so I know the people in our area, not too far a ride up there, they'll get a chance to see. I know you've been doing these master classes for a while, and of course now you're doing an evening with Lindsay Wagner, which is, I guess, kind of a Q&A kind of thing, right?
Well, it is. That's the format we use. Karen interviews me, in essence, and we show videos and photographs throughout my career, and I share anecdotes, and she basically picks my brain and gets me to relay stories, and then at one point we open, at the very end, we'll open it up for a little while to questions from the audience that they may have, that things we didn't cover in the show itself. But it's fun. It's funny. We laugh a lot, and it's just a fun night of retrospect.
I think the first thing I remember seeing you in was the Paper Chase movie. Back with John Houseman. He played your dad, right? He was an intimidating guy. At least he seemed that way on the screen. I don't know if he was like that in person or not. What was he like?
Yeah, he pretty much carried that persona, only without the mean edge. But it was still pretty stern but funny, and then very dry humor. So you weren't expecting him to say something funny because of his posture and everything, and then all of a sudden he'd say something funny or inappropriate, and it was like, whoa, did you just say that?
He did those great commercials for Smith Barney. I mean, that great voice he had doing those. I think most people remember him from that. And but I think he worked back years ago. I saw some interviews. He worked with Orson Welles. I believe he did a lot of the work with him in film and old-time radio. So he'd been around a long time.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to be talking, probably most of the people coming to ask you questions about the great series you did, a spin-off of The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, which really had a great run of its own. I guess most people ask you about that, right?
Yeah, I would say maybe 70% of that, but then there's other people who also very into the movies that I did, and they asked questions about it because most of them were socially relevant films. I liked doing stories about social issues that were going on at the time, and it just depends on who shows up on which show. Sometimes it's more of that, and then other times it's a lot of Bionic. You never know. Yeah,
I know you did a lot of the TV movies, of course, feature films as well, like you said, that had a lot of social themes. And even in The Bionic Woman, I got a chance to see a lot of them on DVD not too long ago, and they're running them again on one of the cable channels. And I think you might have mentioned in one of the interviews I saw you do, you pushed hard to get some stories on there that had some entertainment, but also social relevance as well, or scientific relevance, right?
Exactly, yeah. Mind over matter, our ability to control our body more than we think with our mind, and other things we discussed, racial issues, we discussed, gosh, no, I can't think of all of them.
You did one with biofeedback, a biofeedback episode, I think, Mind Over Matter, I think you mentioned that. You did a whole episode on that was very interesting.
Exactly, that was really wanted to empower the youth to understand that you're so much more than you think you are, or than oftentimes our culture will feed back to you that you are. And so that was our goal, was to expand minds and images of oneself. And right down to the image of keeping Jamie very human, not letting her be a superhero. She was a superhero by accident, so to speak.
He fell out of an airplane, right? Without the parachute didn't open.
Right, but to keep her mentality that of a caring woman, a caring person, and show, as we could in story, her struggle between now having this extraordinary power and still being a woman. because oftentimes when people write about a female superhero, they just kind of turn them into kind of a regular strong man kind of character,
right,
in a skirt and a push-up bra, you know. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted kids to be able to know the feminine aspect of the self. So we tried to write stories that brought up those kinds of problem-solving things instead of just always going in and saying, well, I'm stronger, bash, I win. Oh, good thing I'm not good guy, right?
Well, that's why I got from the series. I mean, even when I was, a teenager watching it, and then again now you watch it again, you got the feeling that you were a nice person. You weren't just like Superman or Wonder Woman. Nothing wrong with those shows, but it was more real.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that was the initial goal. You succeeded at. I think that's what made it stand out.
Thank you. It was fun.
Do you ever get a chance to see any of the cast members? Oscar Goldman, the guy who played him, I guess he's still around, right?
Richard, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I saw him at Christmas. He's still here. He's amazing.
He's a prolific actor. He did a lot of shows. I mean, a lot of episodic TV. Yeah, good actor.
Very gracious man. And Lee and I get to see each other every so often. We'll do an autograph show or something together. But he lives in Texas, so it's not like we can just say, hey, you want to go to dinner? So we do get to see each other from time to time, and that's always fun.
Let's talk a little bit again. You have the More Than a Bionic Woman. That's the show on Friday night, again at the Emerald Coast Convention Center, 7 o'clock. And then Sunday afternoon, let's talk about that for a minute, the acting masterclass. I know you do quite a bit of those. What can the people expect there?
I think in the amount of time that we have, we're going to be looking at some stress reduction techniques. We're going to be looking at, because that's one thing that an actor really has to be able to deal with one's emotion, harness them, and to be able to really be present. Mm-hmm. Again, you have to not be stuck in the stresses that you just left in your house. You can't come and show up here. You've got to become present right here, or you're not going to be able to do your job. It's true in many jobs, but especially when you're trying to play a character, because you have to let everything that's your thing go away. Right. And some other things that we're going to focus on is how to start a scene to help yourself get through it much more easily. And so I call that the launch. We're going to be working on the launch of the scene. We're going to be talking about staying in touch with your intention as the character in this scene, which is going to then dictate the way you say things, the way you respond to what somebody else is saying. All these things end up giving you much more of an authentic performance. So authenticity is a big issue.
Yeah, I've always heard, just from listening to actors and talking to some of them, that listening is probably one of the most important things you can do. Even if they're memorizing script, listening to the other person, right, or actively listening helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're just not reciting lines. If you're just doing that, it looks like two people just staring into space otherwise, right? So you got to listen to the other person.
We've all seen enough of that.
Oh, yes. Well, that sounds like it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people, particularly down in our area, a big acting community here in Sarasota, Tampa Bay, I'm sure they'd love to come up and be part of that. Again, that's Sunday the 28th. That's 1:30 to 5:30 at the Emerald Coast Convention Center. And then again on Friday night, also the Emerald Coast Convention Center, Fort Walton Beach. You can see Lindsay in an evening with Lindsay Wagner, More Than a Bionic Woman. That's 7 o'clock. And Lindsay, really appreciate you taking the time. I know you do a lot of traveling around with your seminars as well, but we're happy to have you in Florida and hope you can come down our way a little closer maybe next time.
Thank you. Yeah, it should be fun. And just by the way, anyone who is not an actor and just interested in being there and observing the class, they are welcome.
Great. Lindsay, big fan. Good to talk with you, and we'll hopefully do it again. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.